Kia ora koutou. Ngā mihi nui ki a koutou. Ko Nina Khouri toko ingoa. No tamaki ma kaurau ahau. Ko maunga whau te maunga. Ko Waitemata te moana. He roia ahau. He kaitaka wainga ahau. Ko Tim toku tāne. Tokorua oku tamariki. Ko Ralph Roa ko Nadia. Good morning. I'm a little nervous. I thought I'd begin with an introduction for those of you who don't know me. What I've just said is hello, greetings to you all. My name is Nina Khouri. I'm from Auckland. Mount Eden is my mountain. Waitemata is my body of water. I'm a lawyer and a commercial mediator. That means that I help people and organisations who are suing each other find a way to resolve their conflict without going to court. I'm married to Tim, and I have 2 children, Nadia and you may have heard the very shy Ralph from time to time. All right, my whakapapa to this church is via Clay. So Clay married my husband and me at St. Matthew's Church. He baptised Nadia there, and he baptised Ralph here. I'm a patchy attendee of this church, but a devoted one. So it's my great honour to be leading the service this morning and to say on behalf of the congregation our familiar words. Tēnā koutou te whānau o Auckland Unitarian. Tēnā koutou ngā manuhiri. Nau mai, haere mai. Ki tēnei whare karakia o te atua. Tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Kia ora, hui hui mai tātou. Let us worship you, let us worship together. We welcome you into this space made sacred by Auckland Unitarians for 118 years. And what I'm going to read next is something I've taken from the UU website, written a welcome by a woman called Marilyn Fokalski. We welcome you. We know you come here for different reasons. To find community, to seek your spiritual and personal truths, to question, to nurture your heart and soul, to be nurtured, to explore new ideas, to find comfort, and perhaps to find answers to some of your bigger questions. We welcome you. We know you come here from different places, different religions, different beliefs, and different backgrounds. We hope you'll find comfort, connection, and love here. We hope you'll find ways to provide outreach to others here today, in our local community and in our world community. Let us worship together, and afterwards let us join together for morning tea. It's our sacrament of hospitality. Please join us. It won't be complete without you. Our opening words today were posted on Facebook a couple of months ago by Glenn Cardy, the minister at St. Luke's in Remuera. Blessed are those that move over, who shuffle their chairs along so others can fit around the table. Blessed are those who serve out the food, making sure everyone has enough, including the latecomers. Blessed are those who shift their positions, when comfortable, certain and safe, to accommodate others and their ideas. Blessed are those that seek to redistribute, making sure that everyone gets enough, so that hunger and privilege will be no more. For this planet is a big round table, with room for all, even the bad and the mad. There are no borders unless we build them. Every endeavour begins with a first step and encounters darkness and difficulty along the way. We light this chalice in anticipation of knowing the dawning of the light, the beginnings of hope, and the renewal of life. I want to talk today about connection. Connection between people who are different, and how hard it is to do. It's something I'm wrestling with at the moment. A couple of months ago, I organised a play date on a Sunday afternoon at Ralph and Nadia's school. I invited the whole class, just an email, but only one other family turned up. It was Nadia's friend, a wee Chinese-Japanese girl, and her mum. Her mother speaks barely any English. Excuse me. I groaned inside when I realised it was just going to be the two of us. How would we talk? Would we talk? There was a moment of decision. Would we smile at each other and then retreat to browsing on our phones side by side? That was pretty appealing, to be honest, and I expect she felt the same way. We smiled at each other. I offered them some cake that I'd brought along. She politely accepted a slice, but her daughter curled her nose up and refused. Her mother pushed it at her, saying, "Oishi, oishi." I recognised the word. It means delicious in Japanese. It didn't work. The daughter was still saying, "I don't want any." Then the mother turned to me and said haltingly, "Lunch," with an apologetic look on her face. I recognised it. She was doing that universal mother thing of apologising for her daughter's rude behaviour. She was trying to tell me, "Hey, we've just eaten, she's full." I grinned and used my iPhone to Google Translate. It's fine, no worries. We ended up chatting for 2 hours while the kids played using Google Translate. She told me that she was an accountant in China, but had been a stay-at-home mum for the last 10 years. I told her about my work and how hard it is to balance everything. She told me that she was worried about her eldest daughter at the local high school, who was struggling to keep up with her studies because she was still learning English. So why am I telling you this? To understand why it felt significant to me, let me explain. In 2014, my husband and I needed to buy a new house. Ralph had just been born and he was sleeping in the laundry. We wanted to stay in Mount Eden, which is where I'd grown up and where my parents, who are here today, live. But it was at the height of what was being called on talkback radio the Asian invasion. The perceived, and I say perceived rightly or wrongly, inflow of money, investment money from China that was inflating Auckland residential property prices. We went to open homes and auctions, and time after time saw houses in our neighbourhood selling for prices way above what we could afford. And they were selling to bidders who looked Chinese. The purchase prices often ended in the number 8, which is the luckiest number in Chinese culture. And these were telephone number prices. One do-up house that didn't even have a proper kitchen or bathroom sold for $1,888,888. I had always prided myself on being multiculturally sensitive, being the kind of person who embraces other cultures. But this was threatening my ability to buy a house for my family. This felt different. I started noticing how Chinese men spat in the street, how they brought their parents to New Zealand on extended family visas, and I'd start noticing elderly Chinese grandmothers on the street and in the park doing Tai Chi, but wouldn't ever say hello to me when I walked past. It started to irritate me, the thought that these people would get free healthcare in New Zealand when they hadn't contributed taxes. They're coming here and taking over, it felt. They're pushing prices, property prices, up beyond the reach of ordinary New Zealanders. Them. And then Nadia turned 5. The school she went to is 55% Asian. She started making friends who are Korean, Vietnamese, Japanese, new Chinese New Zealanders, Chinese-born New Zealanders. She wanted a lunchbox that would keep fried rice warm for lunch, like her friends had. She started going to Taekwondo after school with her classmates, Mandarin class on Saturday mornings. I had to keep up. That Google Translate conversation in the playground was one of the humbling experiences I had, learning that they are not so different from me. Duh. I still think there's a hard conversation to be had about the social justice reality of the Auckland property market. The rise of property prices in Auckland has fundamentally changed the economic landscape for my generation and those behind me. And there are some hard questions to be asked, I still think, about the role that foreign investment has played in that. But I was reminded, because it's not a new idea, right? But I'd lost sight of it in the search for a family home, that the answer doesn't lie in they thinking. In a recent post, Connecticut blogger Linda Strange describes a Trump rally in North Carolina, where she says it became clear that the defining chant of Donald Trump's 2020 re-election campaign is almost certainly going to be "send her back." She writes, whereas the "lock her up" chant was directed solely at Hillary Clinton and couldn't easily be applied to anyone else, the "send her back" variant, initially directed at Representative Omar, she's the congresswoman, the African-born Muslim congresswoman for a district in Minnesota, and also at 3 congresswomen who actually were American-born, including Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez from the Bronx. That "send her back" can be applied to multitudes. From the outspoken congresswoman from Minnesota, it will be, I'm reading now, it will be an easy slide into targeting any refugee or immigrant, anyone who looks or sounds like they might be from somewhere else, or sadly, any person of colour. And the targeting has already begun, she writes. A day after the Trump rally, a gas station attendant in Illinois, Naperville, Illinois, was fired for telling Hispanic customers to go back to their country. It will get worse, she writes, much worse. A lot of people are feeling enabled. She goes on to describe a different kind of meeting that she attended the same week. It wasn't raucous. It wasn't seething with resentment and anger. Nobody was looking for anyone to blame. About 25 people sat around a table in a church hall. A fan oscillated back and forth in a corner, not entirely successful in keeping us cool. The door to the main street of the town was open, and you could hear the evening's traffic on the road outside. The group in the church hall was sponsoring a refugee family from Afghanistan. They had arrived a week that Wednesday. At the meeting, no one talked about the Trump tweet of the morning. We were busy going around the table, each person or persons reporting on what they were responsible for organising. The people who were going to the airport to meet the family discussed when they should leave. The team who would teach them English reported that everything in the new apartment was ready, labelled in English and Farsi. The apartment team confirmed that the apartment was ready, furnished with donated items as well as furniture bought with monetary donations. The family the group had sponsored before this one, a Kurdish immigrant family from Syria, would cook the new family dinner on the night of their arrival. Reading this reminded me of what Betsy, Shireen, and the rest of the team have been doing for our family from India. Working on with Vikram, Sonia, and Qaish Saleria. The refuge support provided by this church in the first place, and then the logistics of finding that flat and setting them up. My family was involved peripherally. Nadia gave Qaish some Barbie dolls, and this was despite my moral objection to Barbie as a heteronormative, Anglo-centric and body dysmorphic toy, right? But this is where the difficulty lies. How do we hold on to Unitarian Universalist principle number 1 when it threatens our own well-being? When it feels like there's not enough to go around? Nadia didn't really play with those Barbie dolls anymore. When we feel like we're being taken advantage of. I understand what Trump is tapping into from my own experiences of trying to buy a house in central Auckland. How do we reach around? How do we reach beyond that fear and insecurity? How do we make connections with people who feel so different from us and threatening? My gut tells me that the answer lies somewhere in something Clay said a couple of months ago. He said, the progress of humanity is and has always been about the tearing down of arbitrary exclusions and divisions between us. The problem is it's not easy to do that. Building connection between people who are different is so much harder than breaking it. History shows us how easy it is to divide people, to break the connections, defining ourselves by the fact that we are not them. Big rallies, cheap slogans. Building connection, on the other hand, is hard. It relies on little sparks of recognition between individual people. That's what it felt like when I realised that other mum was telling a white lie to cover for her daughter's behaviour. It was just what I would have done. It felt like a spark that jumped the distance between us. Building connection between people is quiet work. It doesn't make the news. It's making a family from a faraway country feel welcome. It's a stilted conversation using Google Translate about our worries for our kids. It's a weird but exquisite thank you gift left in the pantry. It's morning tea, perhaps starting a conversation with a stranger. It's a little awkward, sometimes embarrassing. It's tiring, to be honest. And right now, it feels like the most important thing in the world. We do a meditation now. Then I'd simply invite us to meditate on principle number 1. How do we affirm and promote the inherent worth and dignity of every person in our daily lives? What makes it easy? When is it hardest? And how does it make us feel when we do it anyway? Love is a blessed mystery. It's like gravity, vast, invisible, the unstoppable force that connects all things. We long for this love. We long to love and to be loved. Wherever we are, we can awaken to it.